one. That was Janet Jackson, When I Think of You. So now the Justice Department has opened up a case involving Derek Chauvin. In 2017, he allegedly beat a black teenager so severely they needed stitches and stayed on his back for 17 minutes. And then, in addition to that, the medical examiner, the former medical examiner from Maryland, who testified for Derek Chauvin, is now under investigation by Maryland and their attorney general. The thing that is interesting, he's under investigation because his testimony was so counterintuitive that 431 medical experts around the country signed a letter and saying this can't be. You remember when he said that George Floyd probably could have died from carbon monoxide, and that putting your knee in somebody's back in a prone position doesn't cut their wind off, and he made all of these claims that were just superfluous, that no one believed. As a matter of fact, it was so bad that he's currently being sued. Even before he testified, he's currently being sued by a family where he testified, a young man who died in similar situations, that they didn't affect, that the police being on his back and choking him to death didn't have anything to do with him being in the prone position. 431 medical experts said, you know what, this is egregious. He should lose his license. I don't know how anybody. He's the Fredo of doctors. Republican Governor Larry Hogan, the Attorney General of Maryland, are saying we're going to investigate at least 17 cases. Derek Chauvin in 2017 does virtually a mirror image of what he done to George Floyd, got away with it. We know that the Fowler, the medical examiner, former medical examiner he called to testify for him, is now being investigated. The thing that is troubling about these two incidents so quickly after a guilty verdict is that the jury wasn't allowed to know this information on both the expert witness and the police officer. Had they known, I mean, why did they wait till we got a guilty verdict before they allowed all this information to come out? That would have been imperative if you had known that he had done this before, much like you knew George Floyd's history, you knew his drug history, you knew his history of past arrests. Why don't we seem to know the police officer's history too? If it's under investigation now by the Department of Justice, that means you had that information and knew about it. Fowler, everybody knew that he was under lawsuit. Now 431 medical examiners said that his testimony was rubbish, because the system is not just police officers who do foul things. It is the system that props them up. It is medical examiners who try to corroborate stories. It is district attorneys who refuse to prosecute, and when they do it in a very kind of lackadaisical way. It is judges who look the other way. It is grand juries. So just stopping police officers, when we're talking about police reform, it involves an entire kind of cottage industry of people who back one another up. We have a police officer who have been guilty of the same type of things. There was a district attorney who saw those things and let it go. Every time something like this happened, there are a bunch of names on those documents, a bunch of people verifying it. Even the police report was so different from the incident in 2017. It's now being investigated by the Department of Justice. Yet none of that information was made available during trial. Instead, we know all of George Floyd's history. That George Floyd has paid the ultimate price. Derek Chauvin soon will be, hopefully, which is a life in prison. I don't know what will happen or not, but I do know that if that information would have been given to the jury, then it would have had a heavy decision on how they eventually voted, how they eventually decided to judge this man. Now his own expert, Fowler, is so egregiously bad. 431 medical examiners said this is a lie. This can't happen. That man is under investigation and could potentially lose his license to practice. Why do these things exist? Both of them represented a city. Both of them were protected by that city and those municipalities. Even in the trial for the police officer who was guilty of manslaughter and murder, they tried to protect him even then. The bottom line, the system does not just need to start with the cops. It needs to start with the district attorneys. It needs to start with the judge. It needs to start with the grand jury, because all of these ecosystems are designed to do one thing: protect the blue wall. Ultimately, there are a lot of bad situations that happen. Yes, there are a lot of good cops, but a lot of bad ones too. And a lot of bad people who are supposed to be monitoring them. Every name on that list, everybody who signed those documents, that's in Fowler's case, 17 people, that he's being investigated for, every one of those names, they too should be under investigation. Everyone who signed the police report under Chauvin, they too should be under investigation. And the district attorney who allowed this to happen, and the Department of Justice is now coming in, he should lose his job too. That's a little note from the GED section. We got the jazz report coming up in 15 minutes. It's the D.L. Hughley Show.